Hello, you're listening to a DocTalk podcast short with Dr. Neil Galletly and me, James Piecowye.
When we talk about intolerance and we talk about gas and bloating, the first step a lot of people have is, okay, I'm going to head to the pharmacy, I'm going to get something for gas and bloating and be done with it. And it's over and I got this controlled. Is that a good first step, or should more conversation possibly be had if one notices this is a reoccurring scenario?
So, for occasional issues, I think that sounds absolutely fine. And things that work well from the pharmacy, things like charcoal tablets can be really good.
Uh-huh.
Simethicone, which is basically what we give to babies when they get trapped gas. So it's a really safe ingredient. It helps just break down gas and get it out. So there's lots of products in the pharmacy containing simethicone that can help. One thing that I have found particularly useful for patients are peppermint oil capsules as well.
Peppermint oil.
Yeah, peppermint oil. It's a natural relaxant for the gut and can really help with gas pain and bloating. So it's something that I prescribe a lot to people who come and see me in clinic with these sort of symptoms.
Yeah.
So going along to the pharmacy, if you're just getting this from time to time, getting one of these things, that's not a bad thing to do at all. But if you're noticing a persistent change, and I think this is true in any branch of medicine, if you're noticing a persistent change in what you're experiencing and what your body's doing, then it might be sensible to come and get a check.
Do you have any sense of what percentage of our populations generally have food intolerances? Is there any ballpark figure we can attach to this?
Wow. I'm sure there are figures out there. From the top of my head, I can't give you them, but I think it's pretty common. I think you're looking at sort of 10, 20, 30%, something like that.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but it's like that iceberg, isn't it? That
Yeah.
is sort of like, how much is the symptoms causing an impact on each individual person?
Yeah.
So those with severe intolerances, it's going to be much less than that, but they're having particularly bad time with the symptoms. But I think sort of more low-grade intolerances are probably going to be much more common.
And ultimately, it just comes down to having a reasonable diet.
It does, yeah. And, one thing to remember is intolerances are never dangerous. They're never going to be life-threatening. They can cause miserable symptoms, but they're not going to have a direct impact on your health. They're not going to have, increase your chance of dying young or anything horrible like that.
One thing I often notice from people who have food intolerances, from A to Z, is when they finally identify it, and when they then take actions to mitigate it, they almost always talk about how much better they feel, and if only they had acted upon this much earlier.
No, I think that's true. I think it's sort of quite often people just end up putting up with things, particularly if those symptoms haven't happened bang suddenly like that. If they've come on over a period of months and years, you cannot just recalibrate and adjust to it. And so then by removing the kind of trigger foods, the culprit foods, people can often, feel, wow, they come skipping into the consultation room next time.
Again, going back to the start though, and this whole diet sounds to me to be something very interesting and something that I'm definitely going to go and take a look at. Just the number of foods that you can be intolerant to that are built into our commercial diet. I'm going to call it the commercial diet because it's, some of it processed food, some of the things we eat when we go out. Just in general, it's amazing how many intolerant trigger foods we just generally eat.
Yeah, no, I think that's I think that's fair, but just by making often relatively simple changes to the diet, and this is often done in conjunction with a dietitian, because there's a lot of great dietitians out there who are experts in the sort of foods that people get intolerant to, who are experts in making changes and then making sure that you still got a nutritionally well-balanced diet, because that's really important. If you start cutting out a whole bunch of things from your diet, you got to make sure you're still getting the right nutrients. So I will often encourage my patients who want to explore, their intolerances and what they can do with their diet to change that, to work with one of our dietitians as a really great resource. And, there's been really good research showing, if a doctor just gives them a sheet and said, there we go, follow this, most of the time people won't do it. It's difficult to do. Whereas working one-on-one with dietitians can be a really, really good way at helping reduce the impact on the of foods on those tummy symptoms they're suffering.